this is about the legal framework. I'm sure you're going to have you already have more information about this, but I just want to point one thing. Since 2006, it's legal in Brazil to have cultivation for medical and for research purpose. So, as far as the legal framework is concerned, we already have the legal provision in order to have this in place. The only thing that we didn't have until now, and we're looking for the next Tuesday, where Anvisa we're going to have another meeting to have the new framework put in place. So this is, I think, is important because this is not something new. We've been discussing this in the Congress, and the only lack that we had until now was from Anvisa to regulate the situation. This is, you can see the framework's history. I show here how the evolution was made, and as you can see, the things start in 2015. That was a great mark where the RDC 17 allowed to have exceptional import by individuals, and this is still in place until now. This is what we have in Brazil. If you need cannabis, medical cannabis products, your doctor can make a prescription. You can go to Anvisa, you put all your documents in Anvisa, and in about 60 days, they will give you an import permit for 1 year treatment, and then from that you can import your products. What of course have a lot of problems in terms of costs, in terms of time, especially products coming from Canada, where we're going to have, on the other side, Health Canada have an extra tax of 600 and I believe 34 Canadian dollars for each export permit. Okay, now in this slide I'm showing the judicialization access. That is something that is becoming a huge problem for the Minister of Health, because those amounts of money are taking off from the budget, the year budget, the regular budget of the health framework or the health forecast in Brazil. So, in terms of federal government, we already had in 2018 617,000 reais took from the budget only to supply cannabis-based drugs. But if we go only to the state of São Paulo, that is different it's a different budget. In the state of São Paulo, we had an increase of 1,750% in 4 years. It already represents 9.5% of the total amount of drugs required and approval through the court order. So what we believe, people are putting more and more their needs in judicial form in order to have access to medical cannabis products. And this is becoming a real problem for how to manage this situation. Once the regulation is not coming, the amount of requirements to the law will increase more and more. According to Anvisa, as you see, we had around 7,780 patients already authorized to have their access to medical cannabis products. There are around 911 prescribers, and there are more than 60 different diseases indicated on their prescriptions. Again, this is just a little, because if you imagine in Brazil we have around 4,500,000 doctors. So having 1,000 prescribers is nothing. And this is something that I would like to comment, because one of the big efforts that we did last year with Canopy was having courses, especially for medicals, in association with universities here, because we understand that one of the biggest bottlenecks that we had in order to improve or to increase the access of medical cannabis in Brazil is training doctors. The doctors that already are prescribing are just a few, and I do believe the demand for these products are not coming through the doctors, but are coming by patients. So patients are making all the pressure over the doctors in order to have their prescriptions. But again, the CFM, that is the National Council of Medicine in Brazil, only allow doctors, and some kind of doctors, not all of them, psychiatrists and neurologists, to prescribe for epilepsy and refractory epilepsy, not any kind of epilepsy. Okay, so let's go. Those figures are coming same source, the New Frontiers. So in 36 months of legal sales, the number of patients benefiting from cannabis-based drugs here in Brazil will be something around 3.5 million patients, not billion. Okay? During the first 3 years of legal sales, the medical cannabis market turnover can reach 4.7 billion reais again. In all scenarios, cannabis drugs could exceed 1 billion per year in tax revenues, and Brazil could become the main player in Latin America with a potential market around 10 billion reais and over 2.5 billion in tax revenue. I'm going to show you some of the graphics, but I don't know if Marcelo already showed to you. This is the information that we both have from New Frontiers that he represents. And there's one thing that is important. If you increase chronic pain, the numbers change a lot. As you know, at least here in Brazil, 1 in 5 Brazilians have some kind of chronic pain. We estimate that in Brazil that we have a population around 209 million people. Around 50 million people have some kind of chronic pain. So when we add chronic pain to the use of medical cannabis products, the numbers change a lot. So this is the revenue that we estimate. Again, this list could include chronic pain, and when you see the numbers without chronic pain, they are much lower. And here I would like to share with you some lessons learned and the challenge that we found along the way. So, as I said, education and qualified information, we believe, is the only way to fight against the stigma. The stigma in Brazil is big. As you know, we are mainly a Catholic country, and since I was a little boy, I remember my mother saying, "Be careful with the marijuana guys because they are bad guys." So this is something that is in everyone's mind since we begin, from our childhood. So I'm saying that because to fight against this, and there are many conservative areas here in the Brazilian government that try exactly this, to mix up the adult use with the medical cannabis use. There are, in my opinion, a totally different situation. Maybe in Canada, the things are more clear because you have different legislations about this, but this is in Brazil something that we still have to fight with good information. And as I said about doctors, the doctors, many of them, they didn't have any information, even the endocannabinoid system that we already know that is so important but they don't have this in classrooms in the medical school. So just to have an idea what a job that we have to do, training those guys and preparing them to prescribe, because prescription with cannabis is nothing. It's just nothing so easy to do. You have to titrate with very carefully. In Canopy, we have a citation that is start low and grow slow. So start with low doses and grow slow. This is the best way to find the right titrate for the patient. The third thing is product registration. When we look for product registration here in Visa, and I believe it's not only in Visa, but mostly in all the agencies, it needs time and investment, because cannabis is not an easy product to find a position. It's not a single molecule. At the same time, the full plant could be treated as a phytotherapy, but because it has other side effects, they don't treat exactly as a phytotherapy. So we are looking, and I believe not only in Visa, but all other agencies as well, looking to find the best way to promote registration of cannabis products. But as I said, it's not a simple product to have this registration there. And the fourth thing that is important is the companies that are willing to go to this market, having medical cannabis products, have to have a pharma mindset. Because if you have other mindsets, probably like a consumer products mindset, you're going to be disappointed. Pharma, just a second, for the big noise. Okay, so coming back. When I say mindset of pharma, I mean that the time for the product launch, the difficulties that you're going to find, the compliance that you have with pharma, all the GMPs and licenses that are required, this is something that is totally different from any other industry. But once you are in this business, and even being in Canada, because Canopy is a company that all of you probably know, I had a lot of difficulties talking with Canadians, saying the difficulties that we have here in Brazil in terms of have a pharma, a great product, have all the GMP and all the license. In Canada is different. We found different legislation that put cannabis product, medical products, in a different situation that is not a medicine, it's not a medical product, but it's related to it. But it's not exactly the same rules that we have here. So if you understand that developing the product and developing your line here in Brazil, it will be a good way and a long way to have all the license and everything that you require, and a lot of investment as well. You have to have a relationship with multiple stakeholders. We have relations with government agencies like Visa. We have the relations with the Minister of Health, the Agriculture Minister. We have to relate with the House, the Congress, House and Senate. We have to even to talk with local and state level government and university and research centers. When I'm saying this, looks like that, okay, but you can choose stakeholders like this and that. No, you have to talk with all of them, because they all influence in the decisions that are being made. They all have influence in the framework that has been designed, in all the legislation that is going on. So, as I said, having relations with multiple stakeholders is something that you have to be very wise to manage. And in the end, is the relationship with patient associations. I do believe this. They are very important. It's the only way that you are close to the patients, but it's a very delicate relation with patient associations because they look to big companies and multinationals with very suspicious eyes. They always think that we are trying to sell products. We are trying to avoid them to have their self-cultivation. That is something that they are always claiming for. And this relationship, as I said, is very important in one side, but you have to be very careful in the other side. Because if you don't perform well in the other side, the people that are in the government, again, as I said, they are always trying to play, say, no, but you are here because you just want to enter in the market with medical products, but in the end, what you really want is to sell recreational or adult products, especially in a company like Canopy that have both business in the same umbrella, right? So what we aim normally for patient associations is that we want to give them access with quality products. Nowadays, they are producing, and some of them are producing under judicial license in Brazil, but they really don't know what kind of products they are having. They don't know the amount of CBD or THC we have in the products, and this is very, very dangerous from the quality and safety aspects as it concerns. So, in general, this is my presentation. I have another chart here that is about the global outlook, some important facts that are happening, but I believe that probably more than I am, you are very well informed about this. So the new opening for food, beverage and cosmetics in Canada, that according to the Deloitte represents $2.7 billion. The US market is looking for the safe and the more. Once they are approved, probably the American market will open up for other products and more states will be allowed to have. This probably make us understand the movement that some Canadian company like Canopy are moving toward the US market through their size and potential. The drop of shares, I believe, was pretty motivated for the poor delivery of results in the last quarters, but as well some provinces in Canada do not allow the companies to open up their store as they previously want. And in the end, the market potential of medical cannabis indicates while a few countries are legalizing the adult consumption, more than 40, and if I remember, Barcelona yesterday said almost 44 countries already had some medical legislation. So I do believe, even here in Brazil, it's still a very important business, the medical cannabis, because this is something that will come up. The use is really, the population that needs are huge, the opportunities are coming, and new indications and new studies are showing other possibilities for medical cannabis here. And the margins that you'll be able to work are much higher than the consumer products. So in general, this is the picture that I would like to bring to you. And I'm totally open for any question that you may have.
Thank you, Jaime, for this great presentation. I'm going to ask if anyone in the audience has any questions. Come on.
We have some good question askers. They all got timid.
I know, I'm looking at them now. Like, where's the portfolio? Oh, Eleanor. Good.
Hello, Jaime. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Thank you for your presentation. As the former country manager for Canopy and it being a public company, Could you talk a bit about some of the specific challenges they had in getting into the market and where they're at?
Well, yes, of course. The biggest one that we had, and we are not able to compete with CBD products that are coming from the United States, is that Canada imposes a tax. Health Canada has a tax of $624 or $34 for every export permit. And those products, if you have a treatment patient by patient, that's the only way allowed in Brazil, and you add this tax, it's totally impossible to import products from Canada. So the products that are coming to the Brazilian market are mainly coming from the United States, and they leave the United States as a dietary supplement and enter in Brazil as a medical product. So the level of quality and safety that you have to coming from products coming from the US are not the same one that you would have if they come from Canada. But with those situations, we are not able to compete here in Brazil with Canadian products, not even Canopy or any other products.
Thank you.
Oi, Jaime. Anderson do Cajna. Thank you for all the comments, and I was very curious because many of them actually mirror the comments I made earlier. So I'm very happy to see that someone who had already undergone some of the challenge actually see that whatever we made as a remark here is true. But I was curious to hear about the initiatives of Canopy interacting with the Ministry of Agriculture, because in our timelines, the Ministry of Agriculture doesn't show up yet. But of course, there are some concerns, and I would like to hear what are the concerns and why do you interact with them?
Yes, we, honestly speaking, when we first made our contact with the Minister of Agriculture, it was about 7 months ago. The issue was not even in their radar. They didn't understand at this time the potential that the cannabis business has for the agriculture in Brazil. This is, for me, was amazing, because as all you know, the importance that this culture have in terms of agricultural product, we understood that in the United States, the big pressure, even the tobacco producers there, the tobacco is going down all over the world, the producers, and hemp could replace with a good output for the producers. So for my I would say surprise, they were not aware. So we send them information, and now we start to have more interactions with them, and they are more aware. They understand this is a very important economy. As you know, in Brazil, unfortunately, Anvisa do not separate what is hemp from what is regular cannabis sativa. So they put everything in the same bowl. That is, unfortunately, there's nothing to do, because you could plant, you could have the harvester with hemp without any problem, because it's not a psychoactive product. And in the actual framework that is in place in Anvisa to be voted, that respect for the next Tuesday, they are treating both in the same way, and they only allow that the production will be indoors with a very, very high cost. That is not compatible for what we have in terms of our experience in agriculture in Brazil. So again, we are working, myself I still have some contacts, but we are working with ABIKIF. There is a very important association here in Brazil, and they are close to the MAPA, that we call the Minister of Agriculture, in order to have this situation advancing. And we already have some congressmen interested and put this in their agenda in order to make it move.
Thank you for the presentation, Jaime. I had a question about the new regulations and how that might change import regime in Brazil. Will it still be patient by patient potentially, or do you see that changing with new regulations?
Excuse me, can you tell who you are?
Kieran from Cardio.
Okay. So your question is if I believe that the situation will still go in patient by patient or it will move. Look, we have the possibilities to move, but I still think that we're going to have patient by patient for a while. The only thing that most of the companies are aiming is to have their registration of product more facilitated. Because Anvisa will not open up saying, okay, you can bring products with no register, it will come as a supplement. It will not work like this. Anvisa will need a register. This is their tradition, and they didn't went in the same direction as Canada went, creating a new category for cannabis. Cannabis is as a medicine and having indications like for pain, for epilepsy, has to have a register. Otherwise, you won't have the product registered in Brazil. So I do believe, answering your question, I do believe it will still patient by patient until some companies have their product registered in Brazil. Maybe on next Tuesday, if the framework goes on, we're going to have more facilitations to have the product registered. But you're going to have to have GMP, you're going to have Anvisa license, and so on. So it will cost, and we're going to take some time to have the product registered in Brazil.
Thank you.
Jaime, this is Ricardo. Ricardo, we have exchanged some emails before. I saw your presentation, the numbers that you present in two scenarios, with chronic pain, without chronic pain. What's your opinion about cannabis being used for chronic pain? When do you think it's going to happen? And second, do you think that the way that we educate doctors, or your company and other companies will educate doctors, will influence the market to adopt cannabis for chronic pain?
Ricardo, your question is absolutely great. It's a big challenge because when we talk about acute pain, as you know, cannabis is not the best product because normally people that have very severe pain, they need something stronger. That's the reason opioids are so effective. But when we talk about opioids, we have to look for the side effects that are very important and the addiction problem. When we talk about chronic pain, I do believe that cannabis has a very important role to play. But the way you're going to convince the patients and the doctors to take, it must be normally in a different way that you normally do with a traditional medicine. For one reason, you don't have the titration already established because every individual reacts in an individual way. So you don't have a certain dose to say, okay, this guy can take only CBD and he will have his problem solved. He can take, let's say, 50% CBD and 50% THC and it will work, or you have to concentrate in THC. So this medication has to be individual, and every doctor has to be trained in this way to follow up with the patient the evolution of the treatment. In my opinion, I have no doubts that this is a product that will, if not solve, it will at least improve the quality of life of patients, making them have a better life and not be addicted to medicines that nowadays have not only the addiction problem, but the side effects that put the people really down in terms of quality of life, depression, problems of sleep and so on.